Two key bills, the Jammu and Kashmir Reservation Amendment Bill and the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganisation Amendment Bill 2023 were passed on Monday in India's upper house of Parliament, welcoming the Supreme Court's decision on abrogation of Article 370. Upholding the abrogation of Article 370, India's Home Minister Amit Shah said the top court has accepted that Article 370 was a temporary provision.
जम्मू कश्मीर के पास कभी भी आंतरिक संप्रभुता नहीं थी, जो हमारा कहना था। उन्होंने कहा कि भारत के साथ ट्रीटी के कारण भारतीय संविधान के बाहर राज्य को कोई आंतरिक संप्रभुता नहीं मिलती है। इस बात को सुना मान्यवर न्यायालय ने माना कि अनुच्छेद 370 एक अस्थायी प्रावधान था, इसमें कोई शंका कुशंका नहीं है। ये संवैधानिक सत्य है कि धारा 370 अस्थायी समझ।
Let's now get you some details of what India's Home Minister was talking about. Well, India's Supreme Court upheld on Monday a 2019 Modi government decision to abrogate Article 370 of the Constitution, which gave special status to the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir. At the same time, the top court directed the Election Commission to hold assembly elections in the state by the end of September next year and urged the central government to restore statehood at the earliest.
In a landmark decision, Supreme Court of India upheld the central government's 2019 move to abrogate Article 370, a constitutional provision that granted special status to the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir. This historic verdict, delivered by a constitution bench led by Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud, signals a pivotal moment in the nation's legal landscape.
Whether the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganisation Act 2019, by which the state of Jammu and Kashmir was bifurcated into two union territories, the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir and the Union Territory of Ladakh, is constitutionally valid, bearing in mind, 1, the first proviso to Article 3, which requires that a bill affecting the area, boundaries or name of a state has to be referred to the legislature of the state for its views, and 2, the second proviso to Article 3, which requires the consent of the state legislature for increasing or diminishing the area of the state of Jammu and Kashmir or altering the name of the boundary of the state before the introduction of the bill in Parliament.
Top Court's decision has set the stage for elections in the region.
To conclude that Article 370 was intended to be a temporary provision. As a corollary, there was a mechanism to bring the whole arrangement to an end. The effect of the power under Article 373, once exercised, would be that the article shall cease to be operative. In other words, the mechanism was meant to de-recognize the state's internal sovereignty. Thus, the exercise of power under Article 373 meant that for purposes of the Constitution of India, only the Constitution of India would apply to the Jammu and Kashmir and not any other constitution, that is the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi had pushed for abrogation of Article 370 so that development could take place. Speaking in Parliament in 2019, Home Minister Amit Shah had said Article 370 was harmful for the unity of the nation. He also said Article 370 had confined the Kashmiri culture to a geographical corner of the country, and with its removal, the culture of the state would spread to other parts of the nation. Now let's understand Article 370. Article 370 accorded a special status to erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir within Indian Union. It was included in the Constitution on October 17, 1949. Article 370 exempts J&K from the Indian Constitution, except Article 1 and Article 370 itself, permits the state to draft its own constitution. It restricts Parliament's legislative powers in respect of Jammu and Kashmir. For extending a central law on subjects included in the instrument of accession, mere consultation with the state government needed, but for extending it to other matters, concurrence of the state government is mandatory. Instrument of accession came into play when Indian Independence Act 1947 divided British India into India and Pakistan. It followed attempts to bring independent provinces under Indian Union after British colonial rule ended. The monumental abrogation decision set in motion a series of transformative changes that have had a profound impact on the region, its people, and its potential for growth. Reduction in terror incidents, stone pelting cases have reduced, educational institutes have increased, rapid infrastructure development, tourism and foreign direct investment have got a boost. Government's focus on infrastructure development has been evident through numerous projects launched in the region. This has not only improved connectivity but has also made Jammu and Kashmir a preferred destination for tourists.
And reactions poured in through the day as soon as the verdict was delivered. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi termed the Supreme Court's verdict on Article 370 as historic. The Prime Minister said that the verdict is a resounding declaration of hope, progress and unity for the people of Jammu and Kashmir. While Home Minister Amit Shah said that J&K Constitution does not hold any validity after Supreme Court's verdict on Article 370 abrogation. He noted that Article 370 in J&K gave rise to separatism, which in turn promoted terrorism.
Just after India's Supreme Court verdict on abrogation of Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir, reactions started pouring in. People from all walks of life hailed the verdict. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi termed the Supreme Court's verdict upholding abrogation of Article 370, moved by his government, as historic, and a verdict that in its profound wisdom has fortified the very essence of unity that we as Indians hold dear and cherish above all else. Taking to microblogging site X, Prime Minister said, the verdict is a declaration of hope, progress and unity for our sisters and brothers in Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. The court, in its profound wisdom, has fortified the very essence of unity that we as Indians hold dear and cherish above all else. Union Home Minister Amit Shah, under whose watch on August 5, 2019, the government got the bills for reorganization of Jammu and Kashmir cleared through Parliament, was also effusive in his response. The minister welcomed the verdict, stating that it upheld the constitutionality of his government's decision and also pointed out that after abrogation of Article 370, the rights of the poor and deprived have been restored and separatism and stone pelting are now things of the past. Meanwhile, India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh also lauded the historic validation of removal of Article 370, terming it a decision bound to bring joy to every Indian. Singh attributed this monumental achievement to Prime Minister Modi's vision, expressing confidence in the initiation of a new phase of development in Jammu and Kashmir. Rajnath Singh says, Prime Minister Modi's decision to abolish Articles 370 and 35A has been upheld by the Supreme Court. This historic judgment will bring happiness to every Indian. He added that abolishing Article 370, Prime Minister Modi not only scripted a new narrative but also bolstered India's unity and integrity. Jammu and Kashmir have now entered a phase of profound development. During a conversation with media, former Chinar Corps Commander Lieutenant General KJS Dhillon also appreciated the decision.
तो मैं इसको देखता हूं कश्मीर और जम्मू और कश्मीर की खुशहाली के तौर। जम्मू और कश्मीर का जो अवाम है उनके लिए गुर्बत की जिंदगी से बाहर निकल के प्रोग्रेसिव जिंदगी, एजुकेटेड जिंदगी, ज्यादा जॉब अपॉर्चुनिटीज, ज्यादा टूरिज्म, ज्यादा अपना फायदा मुनाफा या घर की आमदन बढ़ेगी। तो खुशहाली का दौर है पिछले 4 साल में, जब से ये धारा हटी है तब से ये ऑलरेडी दिख रहा है।
The Kashmir Files filmmaker Vivek Ranjan Agnihotri and Bollywood actor Anupam Kher also supported the verdict on social media and said the Apex Court has announced that President's order to scrap Article 370, Jammu and Kashmir special status, is valid. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
And we'll be talking about this story a little later on the show with expert guests as well, so stay tuned for that one. We're moving on for the time being. Well, unique identity cards for the persons with disabilities not only encourage transparency, efficiency and ease of delivering the government's benefits to the persons with disabilities, but also ensure uniformity. Minister of Social Justice and Empowerment Dr. Virendra Kumar presented the UDIDs to beneficiaries, under which the ministry reached the mark of 10 million. An indigenously developed IQ testing tool was also launched. An international workshop on Indian scale for assessment of autism was also part of this event.
जो आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी की भावना है सबका साथ, सबका विकास, सबका विश्वास और देश को आत्मनिर्भर बनाने में सभी का सामूहिक प्रयास, तो हमारे दिव्यांगजन भी आर्थिक, सामाजिक, शैक्षणिक दृष्टि से सशक्त हों, समृद्ध हों, उसके लिए विभाग के हमारे सभी अधिकारी और हमारी पूरी टीम, हमारे तीनों मंत्री हैं, हम सभी मिलकर इस क्षेत्र में आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी के 2047 के भारत को विकसित राष्ट्र बनाने के सपने को साकार करने में सामाजिक न्याय अधिकारिता मंत्रालय पूरी जिम्मेवारी के साथ में अपना दायित्व निभाने के लिए आगे बढ़ रहा है.
Now, in a visionary leap towards progress, the nationwide Digital Life Certificate Campaign 2.0 has emerged as the beacon of convenience, transforming the lives of pensioners across the nation. Union Minister of State for Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions, Dr. Jitendra Singh, said that the DLC Campaign 2.0 was conducted to implement the vision of Prime Minister Modi for digital empowerment of pensioners and explained how the DLC Campaign 2.0 is benefiting the life of pensioners.
As the technology moves to the next level, we would also continue moving. In fact, we were the first to, as I said, to pick up, possibly the first to pick up the face recognition technology also and put it to the right kind of a positive use. And this is also causes awareness in a larger manner that people get to know how best to use these technologies. Even their family members, some of them were not aware of it, but now they have also started, adopting it. And as we move on, and I must thank the banking sector also, they have been very cooperative even in the COVID times. So as we move on and the new technologies evolve, we will make best use of that as well.
As India aims to become a developed country by 2047, India's manufacturing industry has shown upward trend with 36% rise in jobs. A recent data shows that the sector witnessed a 36% increase in job postings. The data by a hiring tracking website also shows that the production and manufacturing continued to remain one of the hired areas in the past year. According to the quarterly survey by FICCI, March 2023 displayed a positive hiring sentiment for manufacturing sectors such as capital goods, cement, electronics, petrochemicals and fertilizers, textiles, apparels and technical textiles. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched an initiative Viksit Bharat at 2047 Voice of Youth on Monday. The initiative aims to actively involve the youth of the country in the formulation of national plans, priorities and goals of the country. Viksit Bharat at 2047 is a vision to make India a developed nation by 2047, the 100th year of its independence.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched Viksit Bharat at 2047 Voice of Youth via video conferencing on Monday. During the program, Prime Minister Modi addressed the Vice-Chancellors of universities, heads of institutes and faculty members in workshops organised at Raj Bhavans across the country to mark the beginning of this initiative. Prime Minister Modi said that youth power is both the agent of change and also the beneficiaries of change. The Prime Minister underlined that the idea of development can only begin with the I of the self.
My gov के अंदर विकसित भारत @2047 सेक्शन लॉन्च हुआ है. इसमें विकसित भारत के विजन के लिए आइडियाज का एक सेक्शन है. और क्योंकि आइडिया की शुरुआत ही आई से होती है, इसलिए इसमें ऐसे आइडिया चाहिए जिसमें वर्णन हो कि मैं स्वयं भी क्या कर सकता हूं. और आइडिया में जैसे आई सबसे पहले है, इंडिया में भी आई सबसे पहले है. यानी अगर हमें सफलता पानी है, लक्ष्यों की प्राप्ति करनी है, उचित परिणाम लाना है, तो स्वयं के आय से ही शुरू होता है.
The initiative aims to connect every youth of the country with the action plan of a developed India. Youth can share their suggestions on 5 different themes on the government portal MyGov. The best 10 suggestions will also win the prize.
ऑनलाइन आइडियाज के पोर्टल पर 5 अलग अलग थीम्स पर सुझाव दिए जा सकते हैं. सबसे बेहतरीन 10 सुझावों के लिए पुरस्कार की भी व्यवस्था की गई है। साथियों, जब मैं सुझावों की बात करता हूं तो आपके सामने खुला आसमान है। हमें देश में एक ऐसी अमृत पीढ़ी को तैयार करना है जो आने वाले वर्षों में देश की कर्णधार बनेगी, जो देश को नेतृत्व और दिशा देगी।
The Indian Prime Minister also highlighted the role of educational institutions in personality development of an individual. Prime Minister Modi emphasized the need to create an Amrit generation which keeps the national interest paramount. The Prime Minister informed that India is going to be the leader in terms of working age population in the next 25 to 30 years, and the world recognizes this. Bureau Report, DD India.
And as India aims to become a developed country by 2047, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has urged citizens to accept the 100-day challenge of performing impactful tasks in the Viksit Bharat Ambassador module on the Namo app. As part of the campaign, Indian Minister Hardeep Singh Puri appointed international para-athlete Deepa Malik and fashion designer JJ Valaya as brand ambassadors of Viksit Bharat. DD India's Vishal Biristo caught up with Deepa Malik.
Padma Shri Deepa Malik is a star in all senses, and today she has been declared the ambassador for Viksit Bharat campaign by the Central Minister, Mr. Hardeep Singh Puri. Let's talk to her and find out, what does Viksit Bharat mean to you?
I will definitely reach out to as many Indians as possible, and especially the youth, calling them out to become everyone to become an ambassador of Viksit Bharat by contributing to nation building, and let us all create the vision of Honorable Prime Minister's New India, where he wants to see India by 2047 as a developed nation. Everyone to have great education, and where every Indian can flourish, follow their dreams, get opportunities, and give back to society and contribute to nation building, feeling proud of India, feeling proud of their Bharat, and holding the tricolor in high esteem.
How will My Bharat app will help this campaign?
My Bharat app is one app which is going to bring all the Indians together and create awareness towards developing the entire ecosystem towards the direction of developed country. When we say developed country, we want to see India ahead in every aspect, whether you talk about education, economy, sports, women empowerment, Divyang Sashktikaran, any field, science, nutrition, health, in every aspect. We are already saying India is under the able leadership of Honorable Modi ji is becoming a global leader, be it sports, be it economy. So we want to carry forward that zeal, that enthusiasm, and that vision, so that we can make our country a developed country.
And still to come on DD India News are: China and the Philippines are again at loggerheads after boat-ship collision in the South China Sea. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak defends Britain's handling of the COVID-19 pandemic during an official inquiry, while apologizing to the families of the over 230,000 Britons who lost their lives during the crisis. And Israel and Hamas fighting intensifies. A rocket hits a residential area near Tel Aviv in a fresh barrage from Gaza. India that invents. India that innovates. India that excites. India that invites. Land of possibilities. Teeming with opportunities. Watch India Ideas each Thursday, 8 p.m. only on DD India.
What are you watching, Dad?
Don't you often say, think before investing in the stock market? So I'm trying to gain some knowledge.
From whom?
That's this stocks expert. Makes great educational videos. Gives good investment tips too.
Dad, don't rely on such videos. Do your own research or contact a SEBI-registered investment advisor. In the name of education, some influencers often misguide investors. You'll have to bear the losses.
Do you know there's an investor protection fund for investors, IPF, but if your trade isn't executed on the exchange or if it's some guaranteed return scheme, then even IPF will not be able to help you.
And what if your broker becomes a defaulter? Then?
In that case, IPF can provide you with compensation.
Where did you learn this?
NSE's website.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is facing a day-long hearing in London over his role in the Eat Out to Help Out scheme during the COVID-19 pandemic. Rishi Sunak began with apologizing to the victims and hoped the country could learn lessons from the pandemic. Sunak, the then finance minister, is also accused of saying that the government should let people die rather than impose a lockdown. That was a quote that was attributed to him. This comes ahead of Tuesday's vote in Parliament on his plan to revive a policy to send asylum seekers to Rwanda.
I just wanted to start by saying how deeply sorry I am to all of those who lost loved ones, family members through the pandemic, and also all those who suffered in the various different ways throughout the pandemic and as a result of the actions were taken. I've thought a lot about this over the past couple of years. It's important that we learn the lessons so that we can be better prepared in the future.
At the same time, Rishi Sunak has also defended how Britain handled the entire COVID-19 crisis. The government, he's saying he does not recognize the fact that a lot of commentary has gone into how the government at that time, that was his predecessor, Boris Johnson's government, which appeared completely dysfunctional at handling the crisis. Now, the China and Philippines row over navigating disputed parts of the South China Sea has escalated further, as the vessels of two rivals kept up their potentially dangerous confrontation over the contentious waters. Diplomatic moves and counter-moves of protest and recrimination took center stage on Monday, prompting America's Pentagon to call for truce. DD India's Andrew Wood reports.
As China continues its belligerence in the South China Sea, the Philippines on Monday called the actions of Chinese vessels against its boats carrying out South China Sea resupply missions over the weekend, including one with a senior Philippine military official aboard, a serious escalation.
This is a serious escalation on the part of the agents of the People's Republic of China. The use of water cannons numerous times, long-range acoustic devices or LRADs, as well as other movements against the BFAR vessels, which caused severe, though temporary, discomfort and incapacitation to some Filipino crew, as well as dangerous and unsafe maneuvers, is completely unacceptable.
This comes after the Chinese Coast Guard allegedly used water cannons and conducted dangerous maneuvers at a fisheries bureau vessel delivering oil and groceries for the Filipino fishermen in Scarborough Shoal on Saturday, and another incident against a resupply mission for Filipino troops stationed at a corrugated warship in 2nd Thomas Shoal on Sunday, a flashpoint between the two countries. Meanwhile, the Philippines has filed diplomatic protests and has summoned China's ambassador over the recent confrontations in the South China Sea. On the other hand, China has lodged a strong protest with the Philippines and has urged the Philippines to cease its violations and provocations at sea.
China firmly opposes the Philippine side's attempt to occupy Renai Reef and has already made China's solemn position clear to Philippine side through multiple levels and channels. We urge Philippine side to cease its violation and provocations at sea, to stop its unwarranted attacks and smears against China, and to refrain from acts that undermine peace and stability in the South China Sea.
China claims almost the entire South China Sea, a conduit for more than $3 trillion of annual shipborne commerce, including parts claimed by the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia and Brunei. However, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in 2016 said China's claims had no legal basis.
It's all about something called the the Second Thomas Shoal, which is basically an atoll, a reef, barely reaches above sea level. But China claims this part of the South China Sea as its own. The Philippines says that it's been backed up by the international mediators, that this is part of its territorial waters. Sooner or later, the Philippines and America are going to have to work out whether or not, next time that this base is supplied, this tiny base on this tiny shoal, whether the Americans will be there as well as backup. And then we could see an American-US confrontation, and that would be a lot more serious.
Let's now get you the latest developments in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Well, Hamas fired a fresh barrage of rockets from Gaza at residential areas of Tel Aviv, damaging several cars and buildings in the outskirts of the Israeli capital. Meanwhile, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has called upon Hamas's fighters to surrender.
Israel-Hamas conflict entered into its 65th day. A rocket fired from Gaza hit an Israeli residential street on the outskirts of Tel Aviv on Monday, likely wounding one person. As Israel moves ahead with its ground operations against militant group in Gaza, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu said that dozens of Hamas fighters had surrendered, encouraging more of them to do so.
In the past few days, dozens of Hamas terrorists have surrendered to our forces. They are laying down their weapons and turning themselves into our heroic soldiers. This will take time. The war is still ongoing, but it is the beginning of the end of Hamas. I say to the Hamas terrorists, it's over. Don't die for sin war. Surrender now.
Meanwhile, Israeli chief military spokesperson offered explanation regarding photos depicting detained Palestinian men stripped down to their underwear circulated by media.
It is something we have been doing for years during battle because we have had incidents when people have detonated themselves upon our forces, so this is a part of the process.
Italy, France and Germany called on the European Union to impose ad hoc sanctions against Hamas and its supporters. UN Security Council envoys have arrived in Egypt to inspect the Rafah border crossing with Gaza amid the worsening crisis in the besieged enclave. Aman Kumar Himanshu reports for DD India.
Chinese President Xi Jinping will visit Vietnam for the first time in 6 years on Tuesday. Diplomatic relations between the two countries have weakened in recent years as Vietnam turned to its old enemy, the United States. But Xi is expected to try to woo Vietnam with talks of a common destiny and the offer of economic help. DD India's Andrew Wood reports from Hong Kong.
Well, Vietnam's relations with China have been, have in the past been rather sticky. You may remember the last time China actually fought a war was in 1979 when it invaded Vietnam because Vietnam was not supporting the Khmer Rouge in Cambodia. And the Vietnamese beat the Chinese. They were sent back. So Vietnam has this record of managing to beat the Chinese, the French and the Americans. So it's quite confident in many ways in its relationship with its bigger neighbour. That said, it does depend increasingly on China for trade. The two countries, as I say, are neighbours. One of the things that's most likely to come up is President Xi Jinping is expected to come up with grants to build a higher speed, or at least a standard gauge, heavier railway connecting the port of Haiphong in Vietnam to the Chinese system, Chinese railway system, instead of the old colonial narrow gauge railway. And there are other things too about which they're probably going to cooperate on or announce cooperation, for example on digital initiatives and so on. In a way, China is a little bit late to the party here, because it's the first visit that Xi Jinping has made to Vietnam in 6 years. And you've only got to remember a couple of months ago, Joe Biden was visiting Vietnam and was trying to build links there. Now remember, for all of the agreement over economic issues that China and Vietnam may have in this upcoming visit, don't forget that China does claim large parts of Vietnam's territorial waters as its own, as it claims pretty much most of the South China Sea, and that's still going to be a sticking point, I think, in relations between Vietnam and China. In Hong Kong, I'm Andrew Wood, reporting for DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour, India is set to host the 3-day Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence Summit starting on Tuesday. America's Federal Bureau of Investigation's director comes calling at the New Delhi office of its India counterpart, the Central Bureau of Investigations. And the Indian Navy participates in Western Pacific Naval Symposium in Tokyo.
This is a story of Dal Lake of Naya Kashmir.
मैं बड़ी होकर ऑफिसर बनने चाहती हूँ, दूसरी बात मैं पुलिस बननी चाहती हूँ।
बहुत काम आया, उसका टूरिस्ट आया, उसका काम बहुत जलता है।
यहाँ पे तो अभी बहुत कुछ बदला है। यहाँ का जो अभी गवर्नमेंट्स है, उन लोगों ने बहुत कुछ किया है यहाँ पे। 2-3 सालों से यहाँ पे बहुत टूरिज्म आ रहा है।
Has the post Article 370 abrogation change, the impact of it also percolated when it comes to the local fishing community?
हर एक यहाँ पे ₹10 कमा रहा है।
यहाँ पर लोग आते हैं घूमने के लिए, फिर वो खरीदारी करते हैं, शॉल्स, पेपर मशी, अखरोट लकड़ का, क्योंकि यहाँ भी लोग हैं ना, रोजी इनकी भी चलती है यहाँ से।
After 38 years, I have seen tremendous change in this place.
हमारा कश्मीर जो है सबसे खूबसूरत डल लेक, शांति है यहाँ पे।
In a world that never stops, where information shapes our reality, one app stands out, helps you stay ahead of time. Introducing the DD India app, your gateway to a world of news right at your fingertips. Your most trusted source of news goes global, goes digital. Explore a world of options, top stories, live updates, in-depth analysis, and more. Stay informed wherever you are. Real-time alerts keep you ahead of the curve always. The DD India app, connecting you to the world one story at a time. Download now and explore the world of knowledge, insights, and authentic information.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. Before we go any further, another look at our top stories. J&K Reservation Amendment Bill 2023 and J&K Reorganization Amendment Bill 2023 passed in India's upper house. The Supreme Court also upholds the validity of Article 370 abrogation, which gave J&K special status. The latest COP28 draft text omits the phase-out of fossil fuels. Events Chief Sultan Al Jaber describes it as a huge step forward. And Barbie becomes the belle of the Golden Globes ball with 9 nominations. Historic biopic Oppenheimer picks up 8. Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon and Maestro also score nominations. Well, the Supreme Court of India on Monday upheld the abrogation of Article 370. On the 5th of August 2019, the Indian government scrapped Article 370, which granted special status to the then North Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir. DD India's Sakal Bhatt gets this exclusive ground report from Jama Masjid Market, the heart of downtown Srinagar. The erstwhile terror bastion is now thriving with economic activities, a massive shift after the abrogation of Article 370.
Decades and decades, downtown area of Srinagar has always been symbolic of unrest, turbulence, turmoil, disturbances, arson, bandh, hartals, terror attacks, and everything that has to do with the disruption. But now, is it a transition that the downtown in Srinagar, which traditionally is called Sheher-e-Khas, is witnessing? What we are going to tell you is the story of the making of New Kashmir. I'm right now standing in the middle of the Jama Masjid market, and this is how a weekday here looks like. On my left is a very famous Jama Masjid market, which continues to witness very busy business activity. And on my right is a very famous Jama Masjid mosque situated in Nauhata in the downtown middle of the old city in Srinagar. Jama Masjid में आपकी दुकान कैसी चल रही है आजकल?
गांव से आता है वो शॉपिंग करने आता है वो थोड़ा काम चलता है बंद क्या बंद ये दुकान हालात बिल्कुल ठीक है कुछ नहीं होता है हाँ रिनोवेट किया गवर्नमेंट ने वो भी अच्छा है और अगर करेगा मरम्मत वो अच्छा रहेगा हाँ टूरिस्ट भी आता है बहुत आता है अंग्रेज भी आता है
Aftab Ahmed Khan has this textile shop, and this shop has been here since last more than
43 years.
43 years means 4 decades. And this shop, or perhaps Aftab Saab, has been privy to the decades of unrest and much more. But what has been the shift? What has been the change? Aftab Saab, ये बताइए आपका काम कैसा चल रहा है?
बिजनेस तो पहले से चल रहा है, अच्छा चल रहा है हमारा इस मार्केट में चल रहा है बिल्कुल अच्छा चल रहा है यहाँ कम से कम है 600 दुकानें हैं 8000 लोग इधर काम करते हैं हर एक दुकानदार के पास 4-4, 5-5 सेल्समैन हैं अब उनका देखिए कि अयाल उनकी फैमिली ये बनता है 8000 इधर काउंटर काम है बिल्कुल कैश गाँवों से बारामूला कुपवारा पुलवामा सोपोर सब इधर आते हैं
क्या टर्नओवर होगा इस मार्केट का अब
जिनको होगा 1-2 करोड़ टर्नओवर बिल्कुल कैश टर्नओवर
So this is the story of the journey of the last 4 years or more post-abrogation of Article 370. The making of the Naya Kashmir or New Kashmir, which is all about peace and not door pelting. It is all about development and not disruption. It is all about stability and not uncertainty or stagnation. It is all about transformation and not about turbulence. It's not about terror now, it's all about transition to education, to employment, to development and much more. The peace will prevail, paradise on earth, the beauty of this valley will prevail, and that is the will of the people and that is the intent of the people. Abrogation of Article 370 has brought in a new lease of life, a new lease of hope for the Kashmiris here. This is the story of the New Kashmir.
So to change Kashmir, a new Kashmir after the abrogation of Article 370, a decision that was taken by the central government, by the Modi government on the 5th of August in 2019, and a verdict on that has come today from India's top court, the Supreme Court, which has upheld the government's move of scrapping that article that gave special status to the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir. Let's talk about this now. We have with us D.K. Dubey, well-known constitutional expert in our studio, and Professor Dipankar Sen Gupta of the Department of Economics of Jammu University also joining us over the internet. Welcome to you both. If I could first ask you, D.K. Dubey, well, it is a clear case of triumph for the central government. Its move has got the stamp of approval from the Supreme Court. There are other parties, particularly in J&K, who have a different set of politics. They are disappointed by what has come from the Supreme Court. But legally speaking, constitutionally speaking, how do you see this verdict from the Supreme Court?
Actually, whatever was the situation, in that situation when the central government decided and President of India now passed a constitutional order. These were challenged in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court framed 8 charges, 8 issues. On all 8 issues, they have decided, first of all, the constitution, the Jammu and Kashmir status of Jammu and Kashmir is was temporary. Article 370 was temporary. So they said that it has to be gone because Article 370 does not create it or does not provide any special status. That was a temporary status. Supreme Court said it was a temporary status. That is why it has to be go. Now the second thing, what about the sovereignty? Supreme Court said in India there is only one sovereignty, that is through Constitution of India. There is no separate sovereignty in the state of Jammu and Kashmir after proclamation of 25th of November 1949. Now the third thing, whatever the president did, president decided, president had the power under Article 370. That is why whatever the president proclaimed, that was valid. Now the question before the Supreme Court was this, that if in case the Constituent Assembly gone, then what? The Supreme Court said in that matter that there is no need for the approval from the Constituent Assembly of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. There was no need for the approval from the Parliament of India also, because Article 370 has itself a power given to the President of India, and President can proclaim these things. So Supreme Court said all the provisions, whatever did by the central government, are valid, and they upheld it, the constitutional validity of the of proclamations.
Yes, indeed. Professor Sengupta, if I could ask you, in terms of what has been talked about as asymmetric federalism, this judgment that has come, the verdict that has come from the Supreme Court, how do you see it?
Look, more than asymmetric federalism, this article created a lot of confusion both in the minds of the residents of Jammu and Kashmir as well as people outside. And as a result of which, the uncertainty that was created served to hinder development in this particular state. And I'm not just talking about economic development, also political development. The polity in this particular state took advantage of this particular article to ensure that the democratizing tendencies of the Constitution of India, and I'm talking about the 73rd and the 74th Amendment, I'm talking about the Forest Act, which empowered local communities into entering Jammu and Kashmir. So Jammu and Kashmir, in a sense, had some autonomy, but it used this autonomy to ensure that its people did not get autonomy. And ironically, these are the central laws that have been extended to Jammu and Kashmir after Article 370 was written down and the Constitution of India was extended to Jammu and Kashmir. Number two, you see, given this kind of uncertainty that Article 370 created, you had a problem when it comes to attracting investment. See, one of the biggest determinants of investment is basically a climate of certainty. Article 370 was used by the politicians of Jammu and Kashmir to create a climate of uncertainty, and as a result of which, private investment in Jammu and Kashmir actually dried up. It was used to make all sorts of statements. It was used in judicial activism also, which had to be corrected from time to time by the Supreme Court, and as a result of which, this particular stamp that has been given by the Supreme Court on what the decision the government took 4 years ago, this now enables the creation of a climate of certainty. In the last 4 years, as your correspondent said, peace has been restored, infrastructure work has been aplenty. Now comes the more difficult part, where you persuade investors to invest in this particular state. You ask them to part with their own money, risk their money. And therefore, the Supreme Court judgment that has been given today, delivered today, that puts a stamp, a constitutional seal, and therefore makes a lot of uncertainty go away. We know what the future is for the state. It is closer constitutional links, complete constitutional integration with the Constitution of India. And I think for political development as well as economic development, this has been the best news we've received.
You mentioned that there was uncertainty, an atmosphere of uncertainty because of Article 370, which prevented the kind of development, the investments that could have taken place in J&K. But isn't a large part of the reason also because of this insurgency, the terrorism that was brought in because of the machinations of Pakistan, that we saw that sort of situation prevailing for decades?
That's a very good question, Gautam. You see, when it comes to terrorism, to a great extent, we got hold of terrorism, controlled terrorism from 2000 onwards, 2002 onwards, the graph was coming down. But you see, what dissuaded private investment after an initial surge was these continuous and long-term disturbances that would take place. You know, when Burhan Wani died, a disturbance that could have been contained within a few days, contained for months altogether. And this was created by a set of politicians who took refuge behind Article 370 to create a system that created unrest and a feeling of injustice everywhere. Now that, in a sense, has come to an end. Okay. The terrorist graph is going down even now, but what is equally important, that the disturbances that you used to think of, you know, the stone painting, etc., that has come to an absolute halt. In the last 4 years, Gautam, how many stone pelting incidences have you come across? This is the kind of certainty, this is the kind of law and order you need. And this is where the government has delivered. What was required was a Supreme Court stamp on the constitutional developments. And that has been given. So I think I'm very optimistic about the second step. That is the drawing of private investment into Jammu and Kashmir, which will create jobs and which will create income opportunities.
Certainly. Now, D.K. Dubey, in terms of what has happened, the Supreme Court has also said that elections should be held by September, the end of September next year. And it's even suggested to the centre that statehood should be restored. The Home Minister today also said in Rajya Sabha that at an appropriate time that will be done. But in terms of this particular verdict from the Supreme Court, what sort of precedent does it set?
Actually, at the time of hearing, Solicitor General proposed to the Supreme Court that we are doing some work in the state of Jammu and Kashmir through Election Commission. We have appointed a commission that is a delimitation commission. So after a delimitation commission, as soon as possible, we will hold the elections there. And statehood, whatever the thing is for the statehood, we will make it. We will provide the statehood as soon as possible. Supreme Court, after an acceptance of the statement of the central government, they said that 30th September 2024 is the final date. Then before that, you have to hold the election there. And as soon as possible means this is the responsibility of the people of the state of Jammu and Kashmir, that if they will not do anything wrong, like the insurgency and something else, then the situation will be normal. And in case of normalcy, the statehood will be provided by the central government. That is the thing Supreme Court suggested to the central.
Yes, certainly. Let's hope that we have progress on these fronts as well. That would also be in keeping with what the Supreme Court has altogether said in terms of all these petitions that were filed, more than 20 of them, which oppose the abrogation of Article 370, but that has been completely set aside by the Supreme Court. So that should end the debate once and for all as far as this matter of the abrogation of Article 370 and its opposition is concerned. Thanks a lot for joining us to talk about it, D.K. Dubey and Professor Sen Gupta this evening. Well, the Indian stock market scaled new heights on Monday, propelled by strong economic data and the fair winds of the promise of stability being delivered by the assembly election results in 5 states. The party ruling at the centre, the BJP, won 3 of the 5 states, and the markets seem to be surging on the indication that this means a return for the 3rd straight term for the government and Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
The Indian stock markets crossed new highs. In today's session, the BSE Sensex marked a new all-time high, crossing the 70K, while the NSE Nifty crossed the 21,000 mark last week and hit a record high. The rise comes after the Reserve Bank of India kept the repo rate unchanged at 6.5% as expected. and raised the FY24 GDP forecast to 7% from 6.5% earlier. Strong macroeconomic data, continued foreign investors' inflows, recent state election results and slip in crude oil prices are some of the reasons favouring the Indian markets. The industry believes the performance of markets reflects strong fundamentals of the Indian economy. Many factors, including the domestic investors with SIP investments, are playing an important role in the growth of the market.
The BSE is now trading at 70,000 and the Nifty over 21,000. These are the highest achieved by these indices and reflect the strong underlying fundamentals of the economy. The economy is strong itself. India remains one of the largest and fastest growing large economies of the world. Finally, the elections in the states which happened in the recent past and the BJP victory shows that now the market believes that the policies will continue going forward, and that also reflects in a greater confidence in the economy.
Supporting global market trends have also been one of the factors for the rise. Foreign institutional investors have turned bullish on Indian markets, expecting a rate cut in upcoming US Fed meeting. Industry also says robust industrial sector growth supported by the services sector will offset the agriculture sector slowdown, which may be caused due to the uneven monsoon and El Nino effect.
Suddenly there is a lot of optimism gaining ground with regards to India's GDP growth prospects. And how we see it is that, one, on the agriculture sector front, we will definitely see some bit of slowdown as a result of a poor monsoon as well as El Nino-like conditions developing. However, this is expected to be offset by a very robust industry sector growth supported by the services sector.
It is expected that the sentiments of market will strengthen further. The election results with BJP securing 3 states out of 4 states has boosted investors' confidence. It is believed the political and policy stability will continue. The markets will also keep track at 2-day US Federal Open Market Committee meeting set to begin on Tuesday.
India will be hosting the Global Partnership on Artificial Intelligence Summit beginning Tuesday. The GPAI is a forum of 28 nations and the European Union that is working together to address the challenges and opportunities of artificial intelligence and to promote its responsible evolution. Prime Minister Modi will be inaugurating the 3-day summit on Tuesday evening.
More than 150 delegates from 29 member countries, as well as some visitor countries like the UAE, will gather in New Delhi to participate in the worldwide platform on artificial intelligence, or the GPAI, of which India is the incoming chairman.
Today, the world looks up to India for technology solutions. The world wants to partner with India for co-creation of technologies. The world looks for thought leadership on key issues like 6G, key issues like AI.
India would be aiming at building a consensus amongst the member nations for a declaration document on AI by the end of the summit, which would focus on AI promoting innovation and dealing with risks it poses.
We are negotiating a declaration document which we hope will be able to arrive at some consensus. Basically, today the world's thinking on AI is kind of converging. People understand the dangers, people understand the potential, people look up to the benefits which can come, and people also, the entire world wants to put certain guardrails.
Upon India's insistence, the use of AI for sustainable agriculture is an area that has been added to the summit agenda. The focus of the last GPAI held at Osaka in Japan was on responsible AI. The recent Bletchley Declaration after the AI Safety Summit in the UK last month is also likely to find resonance in the declaration to be adopted at GPAI in Delhi. Amritpal Singh for DD India.
Let's now get you some other updates from around the country. A high-level delegation led by Federal Bureau of Investigation Director Christopher Wray visited India's CBI headquarters on Monday. During the visit, FBI Director held discussions with Praveen Sood, the Director CBI, and senior officials of the investigative body. In continuation of Indian Navy's efforts to participate gainfully in the Western Pacific Naval Symposium, 2 Master Chief Petty Officers, Dil Bahadur Shetty and K.S. Chaudhary participated in the Senior Enlisted Leaders Working Group program in Tokyo, Japan. Time now to get you some sporting updates as well. Australian batter Travis Head has been named as ICC Men's Player of the Month for November 2023. Head beat tough competition from teammate Glenn Maxwell and Indian seamer Mohammad Shami to claim the honour. Head smashed an explosive century to help Australia win their 6th ICC Cricket World Cup title. He scored 220 ODI runs in November, including a half-century and a century. Cinematic sensation and 2023's highest-grossing film has dominated nominations at the 81st Golden Globe Awards. Greta Gerwig's pastel-coloured satire is up for 9 awards, including Best Picture, Screenplay, Director, Leading Actress for Margot Robbie, and Supporting Actor for Ryan Gosling. That's Barbie for you. While Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer stood in the second spot with 8 nominations. Killers of the Flower Moon and Maestro have also come in for some attention as far as these nominations are concerned.
It's a miracle that they let us do this.
And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, as well as Twitter, as well as Instagram. And for the moment, from all of us, it's a very good night. Keep watching DD India News Hour and all the latest coming in on DD India for the coming days as well.